so much for showing up. I appreciate the support for coming to this workshop today. My name is Eric Reedy. Hopefully I've met a bunch of you. I don't know if I've met them face-to-face. I think this is our first true in-person workshop since COVID. So it's been might be a little rusty. We're trying to work out the teams as well and the recording at this point, but it also will be available for reference on YouTube in the future. You can also have the slides afterwards for reference as well. Now, how I've really done this is I've gone over a little bit more detail than I generally would in the past. And I think it's, my main point here is to hopefully clear up some confusion. We've had a lot of different directives as we've had this money, but we've kind of figured it out at this point. Okay. I would first like to introduce my staff, who is awkwardly staring at me here in the front row. We've got some new people today on our stand-up for today. We've got Kate Runyon, Amy Graham, Bill Lott, John Laney, and Pam Monahan works at our operator certification. And then we also got Siobhan Jones, Juliet Wade, and Corey Price on the line as well. And then Jack Mobley is in the back. So I hope that y'all have interacted with the staff a little more than obviously with me. And if there's any questions, please contact them and they can get in touch with me or contact myself as well. All right, so let's get started. So I think most people kind of are interested in this one right here, right? The American Rescue Plan Act. But what I want to make clear is when you are applying to the SRF, there are essentially 3 programs plus, I'll put it in a miscellaneous category. And what I want to make sure is, I think there's been a lot of confusion on which projects can kind of get started first. So we'll talk about the timelines and kind of what to expect if you get these funds, okay? So first of all projects, eligibilities, I think this is pretty straightforward. This applies to SRF, ARPA, and BIL with a few exceptions, as we'll see later. So this is the drinking water side, source, storage, transmission, consolidation, water security, energy efficiency, water efficiency. Pretty much okay, there's very few things we don't. The clean water side or the sewer side, just like it sounds, there's a few more options here, but again, the majority of people are doing a collection system, wastewater treatment plant. The only thing that is not eligible is 100% future growth. So you've got industry coming in, you've got growth in your town, existing growth is fine, future growth we cannot fund. So it's not necessarily the, how should I say, the type of project, it's the purpose of the project that's eligible, okay? Okay, so I want to talk about each one individually and kind of what their nuances are. So we'll first start with the SRF loan program. This is our base program. These started, and this is where these come from. They came out of the Clean Water Act and the Safe Drinking Water Act. We've got Drinking Water SRF and Clean Water SRF. So what I want to make crystal clear here is this is a loan. Up until this year, we were a loan program. And as we'll see later, we've gotten some grant funds. But what I want to make clear is there are grant funds associated with our loans as well. What we've changed in the last couple of years, especially with the ARPA, is now you can get up to 100% of your project principal forgiveness. So you may be getting a quote-unquote loan, but it's 100% forgiven, right? So it's a grant for all intents and purposes. So as you see this year, our loan program is 2.2%. It's a 20-year fixed-rate loan, so it's a 20-year amortization period. That cannot change. You pay it off after 10. But what I want to be clear, again, is you may get an SRF loan with 100% principal forgiveness, which means it's a grant. However, there's some special things we have to do. Different from like the ARPA, for example. We'll go over this. So one of the things we have to do right here is the intended use plan. I've got our website on there quite a few times. What we've also done in the last year or two is really try to strengthen our website, our data reporting as well. So if you go to our website, all of our intended use plans for the past 3 years are on there. We constantly update that as we do it over the next few years. So if you have a question, am I funded? Number one, the SRF program you can find out on the IDP. Okay. Obviously, you'll be hearing from us. I hope you've gotten a fundability letter and that kind of thing. But when in doubt, the IDP is your friend there. Okay. So just to kind of go over kind of the last couple of years, in 2020, we gave away, I don't know, about $75 million total. Okay. And that was about 1 million in population. So in 2021, not even this year, but last year, this is just from that year we went over 120-something million. So even before all of ARPA, we were constantly getting more funds, and again, I'll show you why that's important. The principal forgiveness is a percentage of how much loan money we get, right? So as the loan money goes up, the amount of grant we can get also goes up as well. So now on to the bipartisan infrastructure loan. This is very similar to the SRF loan program. The BIL is a loan program as well, so it's very similar. So this is a 5-year program that we're going to get from the federal government allocation, and approximately $765 million total over the 5 years for all programs. Now we'll delve into what that means here shortly in terms of what specific programs. But I want to make clear too, this is a tentative number. That is not, it's constantly changing, could go higher, could go lower as well. Again, eligible projects, anything that's SRF eligible is subject for, or is eligible for BIL. There are a couple different specific pots of money that I want to point out as well. So addressing contaminants of emerging concern and lead service lines placement. These are 2 pots of money within the BIL program. Now, the BIL program is much like the SRF loan in that there's a certain amount of principal forgiveness, but the lead service line and the contaminants of emerging concern are higher amounts of principal forgiveness. Especially this one, the emerging contaminants, is 100% grant. The lead service line is up to 100% principal forgiveness in projects, but we have to give away half of that money total. So 50% total and up to 100% of the project. Some people may get all loans, some half grant, half loan, some 100% grant. I want to point out too, again, any project attempting to remove or remediate these PFAS chemicals are subject, or are eligible for this program. The lead service lines, now this has given us a little bit of, I'm sorry, I keep it on camera. This has given us a little point of contention recently in that, you know, in discussions with the federal government, with EPA, it's lead service lines only. I want to make that very clear, no mains. So if you have the lead service lines, even with goosenecks on the main is not eligible for that pot of money, okay? Okay. We're just moving around a lot. We're going to clip this over. Okay. I told you I was moving. Thank you. All right, perfect. All right, sorry about that. So again, with the lead and copper rule, with other rules coming out in drinking water, which also the emerging contaminants, with the rule coming down the pipe there as well. You know, things like preliminary surveys, kind of your preliminary work, your engineering design, that's kind of the projects we want to hit too, because at this point we're pretty early on in the process. So those are kind of low-hanging fruit projects. Those generally will get funded, you know, within a reasonable cost as well. So preliminary surveys, technical assistance, things like that are also all eligible for these programs. All right, so the BIL also introduced some new requirements, and this is one I really want to hit in that, number one, there is a BIL specific supplemental general conditions. So to my engineers in here who have done the bidding process into some of the towns, communities as well, our supplemental general conditions are always attached to the bid documents. We will have some new ones. We don't have them right now. We're currently working on them, and they will have to go into all bid documents. So one of the questions we get all the time, can we start early? My advice would be no at this point, because things are constantly changing. Wait until we give you these updated supplemental general conditions immediately. So in those supplemental general conditions, what you'll see is there's a new sign. Now, I think a lot of you who have dealt with us before are used to our sign. It's very straightforward. In our opinion, we try to make it as cost-effective as possible. This one is pretty detailed. It's got a specific color you have to use, specific writing. Again, we'll provide that in our SGCs, but just be aware, when they audit our program, they're going to look at everything, including the signs. It's very important we get this exactly right as it says in the SGCs. Buy America, Build America will also be a big leg of this. Now, I want to make it clear, this does not just apply to BIL. The BIL law brought it into the regs. Going forward, after May, every program of ours is subject to that. And John Laney will have a presentation on that here shortly after mine to go over some of the details of that. And again, I want to make it clear, Not only are you subject to the new stuff, but you're also subject to our existing requirements. So nothing changes there. So things like AIS, you may ask, oh, I'm doing badly, do I have to do AIS? You absolutely do. So they are both subject, or both requirements of these rules. Okay, so now we get to the interesting part. I kind of lump these together because this is technically a miscellaneous of the program. This is not something we get year to year. So we have, along with ARPA, there are some other grants like for specific things like sanitary sewer overflows. So something specifically addressing that. There's some addressing, I can't remember, the disadvantaged or underserved communities. So there's other things as well, besides the American Rescue Plan, which we put you in, which had a lot of grant. Now, this was the first kind of pot of ARPA money, which came in 2021, and we allocated that, gosh, up until about January. And we are currently in the process of getting these all out. Now, again, I'm going to hit our website here. We literally just updated this Friday. If you are questioning whether you are funded or not, it will be on this website. Okay? And you call us if there's any discrepancy. I want to make one thing clear, and I should have referenced it, but when you go to the website, there's essentially a column that's unfunded, all right? And it's not a great word. It doesn't mean it's unfunded. That just doesn't, it means it wasn't paying the grant funds. Could be loan, could be match from the community. So please don't freak out if you see there's a certain portion that's unfunded. It's in a different column. And you can call us and we'll happily help you with that as well. So in this ARPA 1, this is what we've got a lot of questions on as well, is the fiscal sustainability plan. We are tasked with not only providing infrastructure, but providing long-term sustainability for this infrastructure. And so with the fiscal sustainability plan, it's not a template. There's not something I can tell you this is exactly what you need to do. It is community specific. Maybe you don't have to do anything. We would know that. And we see this through the financial audits, okay? One of the requirements that we're finding has been difficult is getting those financial audits. We can provide the financial support to get those done as well. So if audits are something you're struggling with, please reach out to us. We can do the ARPA money or 100% grant to get those audits done. I also want to mention, this ARPA money doesn't come without stipulations, okay? You're going to be subject to the single audit rule. And I'm sure a lot of these communities have had things like USDA loans, federal loans. This should not be a surprise. The single audit rule is anything over $750,000 in a single year, you have to do an audit for the federal government. Now, we also require, because there are options there, you necessarily don't have to do a financial audit, but the SRF and ABM requires a financial audit. So if you do it based on the federal money or project by project as well, you still have to do an audit for us while you're doing this grant funds. Now, just to get back to the FSP, as I said, it's not something that is even like a single piece of paper, right? We see this on the audits. So as you're doing audits over the next few years, we're going to know if you did the fiscal sustainability plan. And when we review your audits to make you an offer, we're already going to have an idea of what's expected through this. So if you have any questions, you can call us. But like I said, it's just like if you were closing a loan with us. You have to have a certain coverage ratio. You have to, again, be able to afford the long-term operation and maintenance of the infrastructure projects we're funding. Okay. This has been probably the #1 delay in all of these ARPA money. I cannot stress enough. We have to have a valid STARS ID, okay? And that means a valid address as well. A lot of times what we're finding is like the physical address is on STARS ID, but the mailing address is what you gave us. It kicks it back, it delays it months. I mean, if you send one of these payments through, it takes a couple weeks to come back and it says, sorry, denied. It delays a long time. So those who have already gotten ARPA money, do me a favor and today double check that you gave us your STARS ID and the correct address. It's very, very important that we'll get those grants out even quicker. So again, I'm talking about reimbursement here. So this is all the requirements, and I think this was a lot of confusion up front. So again, our normal SRF loan process would be pre-application, application, then you close the loan. We're going to stick to a similar routine when we do ARPA, and that to get reimbursed through this, you have to have a full application, financial audits, and obviously a pre-application PGR that you've already done. Okay? So keep that in mind. So if you're asking, you know, where's my payment request? Why I haven't got paid? It's probably because one of these things are missing. Okay, and future ARPA funding. Now, we did hear that yesterday Part 1 was passed in the House, and we're hoping that, or Part 2, I'm sorry, of ARPA. I'm not going to give a final number or anything like that. It's still tentative at this point, but we are expecting more money from ARPA, the ARPA fund. And we will be sending out more information, but we already have about $3 billion in pre-apps right now. So we are currently ranking, so I cannot stress this enough as well. If you have a project you haven't submitted, do it now. It's very important. I want you in the pool. We want the whole state in the pool so we can rank appropriately. All right, again, pre-applications accepted continuously. You can submit one to me today. Again, I don't have a ton more information on that right now. We will be distributing the money if we get it at a certain point. So, again, a little timeline. So I went over all those projects. You know, I think, again, if you assume the general SRF requirements, that's the conservative part, okay? ARPA has a little bit more flexibility. I can go ahead and send you the grant. Maybe you don't have everything, but you can still get that. Unlike a loan, you can't get a loan prior to that, unlike a grant. All right, so again, just a general timeline, submit a pre-application, your PER, your audits, then you get what we call a fundability letter to get approval for funding. And then after that is when you submit your application to the financial review. So again, like with the ARPA, you're going to do the pre-app first, get funded, submit an application, and start. Same thing as with closing a loan. Now again, just kind of a little preview just to throw this all in too. Once you get your money, there's still additional requirements, and again, we'll work through you with that. We have a lot of templates for these. We'll go over Buy America, Build America. I just want to make it clear that all of these are still required, okay? APA does not replace them. All right. Now, applying for funding. Again, we're trying to make this a little easier. Everything is virtual. You don't have to send anything through the mail if you don't like. You send it right to the SRF at am.gov. Our pre-application forms are 340 and 370, and it's on our website. Just go to am.gov/water/SRF, and again, submit them through that mailbox. Now, with financial audits, if you're working on them or you have draft financials, please don't wait. Again, submit the project. It's not worth waiting on, okay? Just tell us, hey, we're working on them, here's the expected timeline, and we can work with you from there. Or again, hey, we can't afford them, and we'll happily help you there as well. So again, I hope I've probably made it even more confusing, but I hope I've cleared up a little bit. There are essentially 5 pots of money: the SRF, ARPA, and then the 3 BIL pots: the SRF, BIL, lead service line, emergency tank. Other than these 2, all projects go into the same pot. So if you submit a project, you may get SRF money, you may get ARPA money, you may get BIL money. Why do we do this? It's to make the money go as far as possible. Someone that's eligible for BIL lead service line, for instance, we don't want to be spending ARPA money on that, right? Because there's a specific pot of specified funds for that. So please keep in mind, a lot of times we're getting questions like, I got one of my projects, but I'm waiting on the other. This is probably why. It's because you're in a different pot, okay? Because we have to go through notice, we have other things we have to do, like close the loan. Keep in mind for BIL and SRF, if it's 100% PF, I'm getting no loan money. If it's through that program, you still have to close it, like you would already with a loan. So it still goes through attorney review, financial review, and then it has to be signed by our director, passed through the council, that kind of thing. Okay, so there is a little bit more to do with BIL, SRF than there is ARPA. So how do we rank? And again, this kind of goes into the common theme. It's going into the same pot. So we're going to rank them very similarly, even the ARPA, as we do to our other ones. So I kind of want to dispel the magic here, right? This is essentially what we're using, and where we're pulling this from is the pre-application. This is a screenshot of one set of our pre-applications. And again, we take this data, the median household income, population growth, unemployment data, now the average annual water bills on the drinking water side, this is the clean water example. So we take that and we use that in our formula, okay? And again, there's other things as well, so things like compliance status, these are in your ranking portion at the bottom. Notice you get a big 50 points for this. This is the biggest ranking that there is on the sheet. So compliance is a huge part of it as well. Now, if you look toward the bottom, which I didn't include, there is a growth portion, which is -50. Again, growth versus need, okay? So if we get into the financials, once we look at the pre-app, this is the other kind of leg that we're using in the ARPA money. we are looking essentially for you to show a coverage ratio. We like 1.3. That's kind of our target line. And again, for future sustainability, that's what we're looking for. So if you were to close a loan, this would all be done prior to your loan document closing. Again, with ARPA, we're a little backwards. You may get your grant, but this is still part of that fiscal sustainability plan. Okay, so keep that in mind. Again, our financial advisor will let you know. They'll call you if we recommend rate increases, if that's something we require. And Alex Jackson, Louis Cardinal, or who that is, I'm sure some of you met them before as well. And again, the previous 3 years is our normal kind of statement, but if you can get the most recent, I mean, that's going to be the best. And then obviously work backwards from there. All right, and then once we get to the full application process, again, it's on our website, all these forms are on our website. The EID is still required. We do not, even for ARPA, all the projects, this is all still required, okay? The only difference is we'll go through notice and do our CE process for the SRF and the BIL portion. Again, the ARPA lets us a little more flexibility to shorten that timeline. But it's still required, okay? Concurrences, project maps, alternatives, and kind of new here is environmental justice and floodplain analysis, public advertising and meeting. I also want to make a comment about that. We've had some changes recently. EPA came in to audit us this year. Things like the floodplain analysis, okay? It's much like our project maps, our Justice 40 maps. A lot of times what EPA, the feedback they gave us was, essentially we're attaching the maps, right? Please remember, this documentation is for public consumption. I know a lot of times we're speaking engineer language, right? The public has to be able to pick these up and say, I understand everything in this project. So what EPA and what we're going to require going forward, we'll look for is a little write-up. Doesn't have to be anything to, you know, you just say, I looked at the floodplain analysis and here's the determination you made. Instead of just attaching the map and saying, see here, okay? And again, if you have questions on that, just let us know. But again, we just want a little more detail. Not too much, just a little bit more that'll help us. The public advertising and media. We have gotten the same notification, I'm sure y'all have, that the newspapers are no longer doing paper classifieds. Online is fine for the time being. That is all they offer at this point, so we don't want to slow down. EPA has told us, don't slow down, you know, please continue doing. Long term, we're going to get rid of the paper requirement altogether. We have to change some internal documents, it's called EPA, their operating agreement. In the future, it's just going to be through our website or through the city's website, something like that. We're going to hopefully make that a little easier in the future, but we will let you know. But we do understand there's some current issues, and we're working through those as well. All right, and so again, I'm not going to go too detailed in this. I just didn't want to leave it out. There's a couple things I want to mention. Really what's changed, okay? And again, I'm talking about the SRF loan process here, okay? So again, plans and specs, they get approved. Must be approved prior to bids, make sure you have correct SGCs. Engineering contracts, very important. And I want to point out too, this is why we require an ARPA, okay? We cannot do our full review of like the engineering contract, plans and specs without that application. Okay, that's why it's important. So the outlay schedule, I want to, and I pointed this out in the past, but I don't know if a lot of people realize, there are no capitalized interest options. So when you do this outlay schedule, essentially what you're doing in the application is telling us what your capitalized interest you want. Okay, so if you say there's an 18-month construction period, that's what you're going to be interested in, your capitalized interest. So please, you know, you may have an 18-month construction period, but you may not want to pay any capitalized interest. That's fine. Just note that, and we'll talk, we can discuss from there. Now, if you do that, you have to pay on the first available pay date. Okay, so let's say you're going to close in January, you don't want to pay any cap out, your first payment is in February. So keep that in mind too. Loan closure dates prioritized by construction start date, which again, I think everybody's starting at the same time at this point. That's getting a little harder to do. The other thing I wanted to note is, and that kind of leads into this as well. Down here, again, in your loan docs, you're going to see newly added BIL and BABL requirements. Okay? Even if, as John explains later, you get a waiver, don't be surprised when you see it in your loan doc. Okay? But it will say something to the effect of, unless a waiver is granted. Okay? So just keep that in mind. Our amortization schedule will change for the first time, I think, in 40 years. EPA, again, due to some of their feedback, you will now have 2 columns of interest, essentially one that has our admin fee and one that has the interest. The interest will not change. It'll still be 2.2%, and now you'll see 2.19 and 0.01, okay? And it adds up to the same total. It's showing what revolves back into our fund. So again, it's always been in the documentation, it's just never been in the table. Now it's going to be in the table. Just be aware. Nothing's changed. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer those as well. So again, we do an environmental review, and then this is for the loan. We have a 30-day public notice period. So if we add up everything that's going on with the loan, okay, so you have the pre-application period, you got the IUP, that's 30 days, you've got public notice, that's 30 days, you've got 30 to 90 days to close the loan. So the loan process has taken an inordinate amount of time. So keep that in mind. I mean, that's what we're working on behind the scenes, is trying to get these loans out as well as the ARPA, because this is the timely portion. They've got to go out. So again, just some general points here. Plans inspection is submitted for approval, so don't go out on those before getting approval. Permits must be obtained, so you must be in compliance with our compliance sections, that kind of thing. That's pretty obvious things. Again, supplemental drill conditions, I'll hit that hard. They have to have it. If you do not have that, you're not eligible for funding. That cannot be placed. And again, I would not recommend this at this point unless you're ARPA or regular SRF. You can contact us. We'll look at the IUPs to determine that. Getting out front at this point, though, again, I would be very cautious because there are a lot of nuances that have changed. I don't want you to be ineligible later down the road once you start. DBE, again, kind of our basic SRF requirements. Don't forget about this. When you go out solicitation of bid, disadvantaged business enterprise, women-owned business enterprise, still required. Davis-Bacon, still required. One thing that we've had a question about in the recent years is how long to maintain records, okay? It's not through construction, it's construction plus 3 years. So make sure you're maintaining those records. Again, AIS, and that's just what I want to hit here hard, is AIS is still required even though you're going to be doing that as well, okay? So again, construction materials made primarily of iron and steel. We've got some eligible, some exempt. A lot of us have worked with this one for a few years. If you have any questions, we have templates, let us know. We can go through that for sure. So, some common problems. Really, DBE, that's again, make sure we're doing the DBE process. Again, the SGCs, procurement's not correct, the documentation wasn't correct, that makes you ineligible for funding. Same here. Attempts for in-kind labor and land costs, okay, these are not eligible. So in-kind labor, you can think of somebody on your staff, you're paying them and we be paying them, so that'd be double. Okay. So we can't do in-kind labor. We can pay for materials, but not in-kind labor. This is another one too, and if any of you have seen some of my SRF 101 presentations, you'll notice this slide. I want to make it very clear, when you get a loan with us, we are going to be very flexible. So like if you want to work with USDA or something, we definitely can match that. However, this is the SRF portion, okay? There's a federal portion along with our state match and loan repayment. So again, being a federal portion, keep in mind, BIL and ARPA are considered federal money. They cannot mix. Federal funds do not mix with federal funds. So USDA, things of that nature, we have to be very careful. So please, it is very important to let us know if you have other funding, okay? And we can work with you there. There are other options. We can phase the project, things like that. We're not going to kick you out for that. We got additional work to do, okay? Let us know, please. That's very important. It's because of this. A portion of our money is federal, and we claim it as federal. So we cannot give match with that money. We have to know what competition. And that is it. I think we're going to take just a small break, and then John is going to do a Buy America, Build America presentation here shortly. And we'll do questions afterwards, so hold on. I'll be walking the hall, so if y'all got any questions for me, while I'm here, that's fine, but we'll do a question and answer session after.
We do have water and coffee across the hall.
All Just talk to Kevin and see what it
Yeah.